Thank you very much, Senator O'Sullivan. Now, our next speaker, Senator O'Donnell, you have 8 minutes. Go ahead.
I'm definitely going to mention Grace too. Minister, you're very welcome to the House, and I do sincerely actually want to begin by acknowledging Myra's role in this bill, in the preparation of it, and in bringing it to us here on such a timely and significant and important day when we discuss this issue. Although I am one of those people who attest to the very firm view that every day should be World Mental Health Day, and this legislation seeks to give capacity to young people in the first instance, the ability to affirm, assert and engage based on their own needs and their own judgment and what they should be entitled to, and that is a right to have access to the treatment that they have decided that they need. So I also think it's not a coincidence that Myra has a background as a psychiatric nurse, and it shows what a diverse and active Seanad can bring to the legislative, the political and the social discourse out there, particularly on, as I say, such an appropriate day to have such an important bill put before us here at second stage in the Seanad today. As has been mentioned previously, Grace has had a significant input into the compilation of this legislation, and as well as being Myra's advisor and right-hand woman, as she put it, she's also possibly all of our psychiatric nurse on the Sinn Féin floor as well. She's a great support to us and obviously to broader society when she helps craft a piece of legislation like this. But that's enough of that. I want, Minister, to finish up by making two brief points. The last Caherlock will be glad to hear. And I do so not in trying to take us away from the positive contributions thus far, but I want to make two political points, because we are a political chamber after all. The first thing is that we are voting, it looks tonight, as though this will pass second stage, and we're voting to give young people capacity to determine their own needs around accessing mental health treatment and care and services. That doesn't matter a jot if there aren't the necessary and appropriate services out there for them to avail of. So I think collectively and collaboratively we all need to acknowledge that, separate from this significant piece of legislation, we need to work to address the broader problems, and it is a chronic problem out there, not just for young people but for people right across the generations, to access the mental health service that they need at an appropriate time, an appropriate location and an appropriate space for them. The second point is, and my colleague Senator Black touched on it, if we vote to pass this at second stage tonight without regard to any amendments at later stages, then we are acknowledging rightly, and I think it's a good thing, that young people do have the capacity to decide their own needs, to make responsible, informed judgments in terms of their own well-being and their own health. But you see, if we accept that, then I don't see why you would then oppose the argument that we enfranchise those people with the vote at 16 and 17 years of age. So I'm not going to digress too much, but there will be people, I'm sure, tonight, and people who will come in at later stages of this debate and give it a bit of bell gra and a wee bit of plumage to young people, and tell them how valued and how important they are. And I don't doubt their sincerity in relation to this issue. But when it comes to other issues, I just wish they would value the input and the wherewithal and the capacity of young people on those issues as well.
Thank you very much, Senator O'Donnell.